Hey there guys, welcome to the first month of Stamp Camp. I'm so excited to have you here with me today. Thank you so much for signing up. I really hope this meets or even exceeds your expectations, and I hope you have a good time while we do this. So each month we're going to be focusing on a technique, and this month we're going to be focusing on heat embossing, but more specifically I'm going to show you how you can heat emboss in color without colored embossing powder. So I'm going to be using the suite from the stamp set and the paper from the Picture Perfect Party Suite. If you don't have catalogs, please email me. Part of the program, you get free catalogs, and I'll send them out to you. But yeah, so I'm going to use this Happiest Birthday to You, and then I am going to do a pattern. So let me show you that. So when you get your kit, you'll get one of two patterns. You'll either get this kind of all over confetti pattern or this confetti pattern. Of course, there's only 4 of each pattern, and there are 6 of y'all. So there you go. So let's talk about the basics of embossing before we get started. If you're unfamiliar, heat embossing is when you use a sticky ink to apply powder, and then you heat it with a heat tool, and it melts and it becomes raised and shiny or matte depending on the powder. There are some powders that are matte, and there are some things that you need in order to do this. You need a heat tool. Now this is the one from Stampin' Up. This is the one that I love. A couple of years ago I was working on Christmas cards, and I think I was making 20, and I was heat embossing on all of them. And I had just a heat tool that I'd picked up at a craft store. It was either Joann's, Michael's, or Hobby Lobby. I can't remember. And it died on me. So I was like, okay. So I went and got a new one, and it died too. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to get this one. I've had this for 2 years now. You guys, if you've watched me for a long time, you know that I heat emboss probably once or twice a week. And I did a lot of embossing during this last holiday card series. So what's great about this heat tool is that it has 2 settings. So you can do really high, really hot if you're embossing on regular cardstock, or drying, or you can do the first setting if you're doing something like on a more delicate paper such as acetate or vellum. And again, you don't have to get this through me. You don't have to get this through Stampin' Up at all, but this is a really good heat tool. And again, I've had it for a couple of years now, and it's fantastic. It's lasted me this long, so I love it. So I know sometimes people get confused, and because I don't remember which company makes it, but they have one that looks like a hair dryer. You absolutely cannot use a hair dryer. You need something that directs heat and has more heat. So there's the first, like that's the have to. You have to have that. The next thing you have to have is a sticky ink. Now, most people use Versamark. You can also use a pigment ink such as our basic black archival or our basic gray archival. VersaFine is another pigment ink. You just need something that's going to stay wet a little bit longer, or that's going to grip the embossing powder, and that way you have plenty of time to do it. My favorite is Versamark. This is something that you can get through Stampin' Up. And mine's old as the hills, and it gets really, really dirty, but I don't mind that. I just re-ink it when I need to, and it's good to go. So the heat tool and the ink are a must, and then you need a powder. That is also a must. Now, I store my powders in these, let's see if I can get this other powder out. My nails are off, so I'm having a hard time. So this is what our powder comes in. And this is the copper, which is all right. But I store mine in these little containers I picked up at the Dollar Tree. I don't know if they still make them, and I think they do. I think I remember them seeing on their website. I just don't think they make this color. And you absolutely don't have to do this. It just makes it easier for me. So the have-tos are the heat tool, a sticky or wet ink, and embossing powder. One thing that you probably want to have that you don't necessarily have to have is a static remover tool. So this is the Embossing Buddy from Stampin' Up, and it's just full of like talcum powder, and you'll see me just wipe it on there, and this helps your oils from your fingers or any static electricity to so the embossing powder doesn't stick in that spot. And when I've forgotten to use it, I regret it every single time. You can also, I know some people also use like a Swiffer sheet, one of the Swiffer like floor cloths. I've seen people do like a used fabric softener sheet. We don't use those in our laundry, so I never have those. We use them in the car, but we never use them in the laundry. And there are a couple other tools as well. So, but you definitely want something that's going to remove the static. But again, this isn't necessarily a have-to-have item. So I will have all of these supplies linked. You can click on a recipe that's going to be just for you guys. It'll have the supplies listed and it'll have the measurements for everything. So, okay, let's get started. So the colors in this suite are like Berry Burst, Bermuda Bay, Peekaboo Peach, Lemon Lime Twist, and Pool Party. So I have a Peekaboo Peach card base that measured 4 1/4 by 11, and I've scored it at 5 1/2. If you guys are new to card making and you want to see that on video, make sure you let me know. Respond to this, the email that you receive with this video on it, or comment on the video letting me know that you want a basic series, because I can absolutely do that. And then I've cut my top card layer to be 4 by 5 1/4. And then of course my inside card layer to be 4 by 5 1/4. I almost always do 1/4 inch measurements unless I'm adding an extra layer in between. But I didn't want to on this card because I feel like I really want the confetti and the sentiment to really be the standout item. Now I am adhering this with liquid glue, but you could use snail if you wanted to. You could use other tape runner, you could use double-sided Scotch tape. It's really up to you. I love our liquid glue, and I do enjoy our snail as well. But you guys, if you've watched me again, you know that I can make mistakes. And this glue gives me a little extra second to be able to move things around. So, just gonna put that down. And again, you're gonna make sure that it's even all the way around. And then I'm going to go ahead and adhere my piece here. I initially thought about popping it up and adding ribbon, but I feel like that since the pattern is such a busy pattern that I didn't want to add too much to the card, because then it would be, the balance would be off for me. But the good thing about this is I'm sending you the basics and you can embellish however you want to. Now I'm also sending you a link to an exclusive Facebook group, excuse me, and you can post your projects there if you want to. I'd love to see them. If you're not on Facebook, no worries. You can just reply with your project, or if you're on Instagram, etc., you can tag me in a photo. That would be fantastic. Okay, so let's get to the heat embossing. So I have a scrap piece of Whisper White. You will get a scrap piece of Whisper White as well. And then I have this sentiment. This is the happiest of birthdays to you. And I'm going to be mounting this on a Bermuda Bay circle. So I wanted to stamp in Berry Burst. And of course, I don't have Berry Burst embossing powder because Stampin' Up! Doesn't sell Berry Burst embossing powder. So first things first is I'm going to use my anti-static tool, my embossing buddy. And I'm just going to go over it. Now, if you retouch it, you're going to have to go back over it again because it's going to have your oils from your fingers. And you will literally see your fingerprint in embossing powder. I'm going to use my Versamark ink pad, and I'm going to make sure that I ink this up really, really well. I'm going to go ahead and open my Berry Burst because we're going to go from Versamark into Berry Burst. My ink pad looks a little crazy because I did ink blending with it. So I'm just going to ink this up. And then I'm going to go straight into my Berry Burst. And you want to do this first, the Versamark first and not last, unless you don't mind all that ink. All that Berry Burst ink onto your card, or onto your stamp pad. And then you're just going to stamp it down. just like that. So now, move that out of the way and let me close this so I don't. I'm going to use my clear embossing. I think if I hold it like this, you can see how it dulls it out and see how it's going to add some texture. Heat embossing is probably one of my most favorite things to do. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on my heat tool. I'm going to let it warm up, and then I'm going to melt this until it's shiny, and that's how you tell that it's done. Now you want to be careful that because this is heat and it can burn your paper. And you also want to make sure that you're not remelting the embossing powder, because then it'll be a little bubbly. So I'm going to turn it on, heat it up, and then I will show you the process, but I will turn off the sound so you don't have to listen to that. So you can see that I didn't leave it on there very long, and now you can see how shiny that is. Another thing you can do is the bows in the stamp set are a two-step stamp. So you want to stamp your bow in a lighter color and then add your darker color. You could stamp your bow in a regular ink, let it dry, and then stamp this in a color, then in the Versamark, and that way the bow is matte and then the inside is not. Or you could do the whole thing and have a shiny bow, and you can use a metallic like the copper, the gold, or the silver. You can use a glitter. Stampin' Up! Doesn't sell a glitter embossing powder anymore, but I have some from like Wow, etc. So very easy, very fun, and very striking. So I'm going to use, I think I can use the 2-inch on this. We shall see. Yes. So I'm just going to line this up with my 2-inch circle punch. I'm going to go ahead and punch you a couple of circles and send those with you. But if you find that it's a little tight for you to stamp, then if you have the 2-inch circle punch, go ahead and punch it at home. And then I'm going to do the 2 1/4 inch, which I think that circle already is, but I'll just show you how to use it anyway. If you're unfamiliar with our punches, they are a lockdown style, which means that they have a lock on them to keep them closed. So you just push that up and then it opens it. If you have an image, you're going to want to center your paper. If you're just punching a shape, you just want to make sure that the whole entire area is full, and then you punch, and that's it. So let me zoom you back out. I'm going to adhere these together with Stampin' Dimensionals. Now I use a lot of dimensionals. You don't have to use quite as many as I do, but I just I like to make sure that I have enough. And Stampin' Dimensionals are somewhat inexpensive. I mean, you get 3 big sheets for $4, I believe is how much they are. And I love adding dimension to my cards. So I'm just going to make sure that those are kind of even. Just like that. I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to add some more. I think I'm just going to have enough before I have to start cutting the sides. Don't waste this. Use it. It still works. You just have to cut it. There you go. Here is our card. And I'm going to add it right there. So you can see that shine, and then you can see, hopefully you can see how it's raised a little bit. I absolutely love it. So if you have any questions about heat embossing, make sure you let me know. Again, let me know if you need catalogs. They are part of the program, so if you don't have one already, I can send one out to you. You'll also, don't forget, you'll get 1 of 2 patterns, and your kits will ship after you place your order, probably closer to the 15th. Okay guys, thank you so much for joining me. Again, let me know if you have any questions. Thank you so much for joining our first month, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.